shaking. And the cup is more than half full now. If you love him, you need to be right. So give her your love and the cup will full. Your sky could never gray. Down and wipe a smile away. Sun, it shines up above. From out the darkness comes your love. Into the world it brings some
I
light.
understood because my body was in such a low place because it was so close to death. I understood that my body is one thing, one organism, and my mind is also something, and it's this very busy little computer. But then there's my spirit. And my spirit was something that I had not been in contact with. It was always there, but I hadn't been in contact with it. And I understood at that point that death, that you could take this body that was of no use to me. It could have given up, and I could cross that very small line over to death, and I would still be spirit.
I am a breast cancer survivor, a blood cancer survivor.
I'm Dr. Holly Lucille, a naturopathic doctor.
I am a mom of a teenager, basset hound owner, military wife.
My name is Dr. Deanna Atai, and I'm a breast surgeon.
I am a cancer survivor who is looking for answers just like you.
I'm Deborah Tripathi. I'm a medical oncologist.
What works, what doesn't? Welcome to Thrive with Namrata. So we just watched Melissa Etheridge talk about breathing, talk about the power of peace and calmness. And Melissa is, if there was one way I could describe her, she's a wonderful woman, she's a dear friend. Peace, truth, she emanates that. So let's talk about that with our doctors.
Well, I think there's a piece of evidence right now that I can tell you just happened to me because you started talking about breath work and peace, and instantly I started to concentrate on taking deeper breaths, and guess what? I felt more at peace. I think that's all I'm going to say.
I think the peace part of things, and this is something I do see in my patients a lot. Initially, patients are very frantic. They come in, they're bombarded with all sorts of information, and many are living very frantic lives. One of the things that I always encourage my patients is try and slow things down a little bit. I encourage my patients to do things like yoga or even a more meditative form of exercise such as Pilates or swimming. You know, you don't necessarily need those spinning classes, something to ground you a little bit more. And what I have found is I can't speak to recurrence rates of cancer, but my patients who seem to be able to dial back their lives a little bit, tone down their lives a little bit after a diagnosis, do seem to thrive. They are happier people, they are more appreciative of what they have, they don't take things for granted, versus the patient who, this is just something I have to get through and then I'm gonna go back to my frantic life. So I think there is a lot to that, and I definitely see a difference in the quality of life in my patients, the ones that can kind of pull back a little bit and tone down their lives a little bit.
What about from a clinical practice standpoint, Debbie? Do you think that having that peace and being able to breathe better actually increases longevity in cancer patients?
It's difficult to answer the longevity question, but certainly relaxation techniques can improve one's quality of life, one's emotional state. This has been shown with deep breathing, with yoga, with music therapy, mindfulness-based stress reduction. We know, for example, that it can lower the heart rate and the blood pressure, so there are physiological advantages of a relaxed state, as well as emotional advantages. So I think it's important for everyone with cancer or with any illness, really, as well as for those of us that don't have any immediate medical problems, to all have that as a plan in our day. I think scheduled meditation, whether it's deep breathing or many other techniques, for some people it's exercising, can fulfill that, should be adopted into one's lifestyle.
And actually, how interesting, because I interviewed a gentleman from South India, from one of the top universities in South India, that they were doing a study on tea and the benefits for cancer. We ended up talking about yoga, and I said, well, you're from South India. What about yoga and cancer? Does yoga help prevent cancer? Does yoga help heal cancer? And he said, I think yoga and many other therapies popular in the West help with the prevention and treatment of cancer, but not as a direct result, more so because they promote better breathing. And in just that one sentence, he changed my thoughts on breathing. Now, I don't know if he's right or not, but that was, I just sort of, I think about that sometimes, and I think about how that makes me feel. And I wonder, as you said, Dr. Tripathi, the physiological changes that happen in your body when you breathe. And I wonder really just how much importance we should give to that when we're actually talking about therapeutic cures, and not just cancer, but any other disease, is your air, water, your basic, lifelines that you have.
Well, that's the big question. There's no doubt that these techniques can help with your emotional state, and there are reasons to believe that they may actually improve the state of the disease. For example, make your arthritis better, maybe make the joint destruction that comes with arthritis better, and then in the area of cancer, it could have an impact there. However, we haven't proven that, and so I don't think people should assume that they're necessarily going to live longer with these techniques. But hey, if it makes you feel better, if it helps your emotional state, why not?
So what I'm taking away from that is, just because you're breathing right or doing yoga or any of these things, it may not necessarily cure your cancer, but I can tell you firsthand, it grounds you, it gives you peace. And you know what? What have you got to lose? So just take a deep breath, hold, relax, and I will see you next week.